name is Christine Alfrey. As most of you know, I am a conceptual abstract artist. I'm very delighted to be part of this exhibition at the Center for the Visual Arts. It's called Independent Spirits, and there are 3 women here showing and displaying their wonderful independence and their spirits. I have chosen the pieces for this show are a retrospective of what I've done last year since the COVID lockdown and what I'm working on this year. Last year I began with the COVID lockdown and started painting flowers, and the flowers just were so exciting for me, and they made me so happy that I continued to paint flowers not only as a warm-up but as larger pieces that I have competed with. And this one, Wildflowers, is one of the pieces on canvas that I did during that time, and I think the colors turned out really cool. I love the blues and the greens that are in here, and you have my wonderful lines that go through here and the gestural marks that I have. And if you get in close, you can see the greens, the different greens and the colors. There's probably about 10 layers of color on here. And I kept on painting over it until I got what I wanted. And when you look closely, you can see some of the layers underneath, and the texture forms a marvelous, delightful play with the colors and the different things that blend and move together. This piece, moving on down to this work, is part of a series I'm working on this year. And I had a title for it right after I finished the first piece for it. And I've been very concerned about our country and the polarities that exist within our country. And I keep on hearing about everybody working together and thinking of this middle of what working together is like. And I'm thinking, the way I think of the middle is that it's gray. And for me, the middle is anything but gray. It is full of differences and multicolored and individual spirits and unique personalities, and it is anything but gray. So the series became The Middle is Not Gray. This is one of the first pieces I did. I had a very good idea of what I wanted to do. I wanted to do a cage, and if you look on my website, you'll see one part of this where the cage was yellow and there was blue in the background. This is another piece where you'll see a lot of the pieces behind this work that I changed as I moved into it. But there's no color here. And I thought, well, how can this be The Middle is Not Gray? It has a theme that you see reoccurring over and over in my work. It's a theme of release and being set free. So these wonderful birds are set free from this cage and they can go back to their natural environment. But, and that was my whole initial idea, the cage and the freeing of the birds or the doves. And as I worked along on the piece, I thought, no, the middle is not gray, it comes in here. And if you think about color theory is that white has all color in it. So you can imagine this white with all the color in it. And it's just a plethora of color as you look at it. And that's why I signed my work differently on this one. I put a rainbow of colors down here just to illustrate how wonderful and how colorful that middle really is. And then another series in this work is this month and it's March, is National Women's History Month. And I started painting figures. She was the first one. And I realized I was painting a lot of women. So I decided to honor National Women's History Month by painting women all this month. And this is one of the pieces that I have and some of the women fit into Middle is Not Gray and some of them don't. But I call this piece Just Walk Away. And from that, I mean, walk away from some of your old ideas of black and white and these polar opposites, and just walk away, find your unique self, who you are as an individual, what your soul and heart is, And all my women that I've been painting this month illustrate that. Find who you are and your unique self. So if you look very closely at this piece was never, ever going to be a woman. It was a landscape, and the landscape went this way, and it was a vertical piece. And I kept on going, this is not working, this is not working. So this piece was probably on my studio table for 3 months. And I was figuring it out and working it out. And I knew it was right when she appeared. And I used all the wonderful colors and textures that I'd put underneath and used them in her body and brought her out and put this glorious red hat with a feather in it on her and the wonderful red lipstick, and she is just celebrating who she is, and she's going to walk away from how she used to be defined, maybe with pretty dresses and pretty hairdos and pretty jewelry, and just be who she is. So she's walking away and walking into her independence. This is one of the major pieces for The Middle Is Not Gray. As you can see, I've got the polar opposites, and as you can see, it's huge. I'm 5 foot. And you have the black and you have the white, and you have these two sides fighting with each other and saying, they're right, they're right, they're right. And you come into the middle and you see all this wonderful conglomerate of different things and different peoples. And some people are checkerboards, and some people are green sprouts growing, and some people are lines moving and dancing within the work. And it all is about this enormous celebration of who you are as an individual, how unique you are as an individual, and you do not need to be gray. So I love this series. I don't know if I'll tire of it for a while. And then I'm going to move on down to the next piece in this exhibition. I'm a very spiritual person, as most of you who follow me know. And she's another woman that just emerged. She just decided, here I am. And I thought, I didn't have this part on her. She wasn't there. She was just this beautiful red woman with these wonderful colors bleeding into her and giving her such life and feeling of celebration. And then I thought, I'm going to paint some wings on her. And believe it or not, we all have wings on us. And we all think we can't fly, but we can. And I titled the piece, She Didn't Know, meaning she didn't know she had wings. But imagine what happens when you figure out that you do have wings and that you can fly, and that's who you are, and that's your individual self. So it's another celebration of your unique self, and you're definitely not gray. This piece here was a series I did last year, and it was a series of the dynamic pull of mechanical, machine-made things, and nature, and having nature left the way it is. And it's all about the intrusion of the mechanical into nature. And you can't always think of that intrusion as bad. There are some very good things that happen, and we learn from the mechanical and our growth and our change that goes on. And I call the whole series Gears, and a few pieces still appear, but you can see the gears in the piece. But also what started happening to me at this time is I started making these constellations up here. And now, as I look back, I can see that I was moving into The Middle Is Not Gray, because these constellations aren't ones that we recognize. They're things that make us interconnected now. So you have this polar opposites of the mechanical and nature, but this is what we have, and we're working with it. So let's make both of them work and be multicolored and figure out what's the best for us as an individual, our unique selves, and what's the best for where we live and how we think. One of the things that I haven't mentioned is the struggle in my work. If I paint 4 or 5 different layers on a piece and I'm struggling with it, I don't give up. I don't throw the piece away, although many times I would like to. As I said, I'm so stubborn, I want to make it work. So in the end, even if it's on my paint table or my paint board for many months, somehow whatever needed to emerge, emerges. And I'm not a straight line person. I just don't know how to do straight lines. They don't feel good. I have trouble with them. But I did show the contrast between making a straight line, well, my straight line. It's not the straight line that anybody else has. I kind of call this a straight line, but it is curved, isn't it? Anyway, it has a contrast, a wonderful contrast of straight and curved. And all my gear pieces work that way and work things out. The last series I'm going to talk about, I'm going to walk over to it, is my rabbit series. As I said, I chose to do the rabbit series instead of flowers this year, although flowers still appear in my studio as I'm working and warming up. I do a lot of small pieces in my studio, like these 2 small rabbits, and they're a warm-up for me to get into my larger pieces, to make my larger brush strokes, to allow myself the freedom of letting the brush do what it wants to do, listening to what the paper has to say to me, listening to what the paint has to say to me. So these little rabbits here are warm-ups for larger pieces that I showed you earlier. I really like this one. It's called Thumper Klein, and I named it after Klein, the artist who did black and white huge brush strokes, and I was really trying to loosen myself up here. So I wanted to have this, like Klein, I wanted to have this fat brush loaded with black, tapered down into no color at all. And the black that is on this rabbit was in one fat brush. And when I finished putting the black on, put some more water on to spread it around, I thought, wow, I just experienced Klein. It was just extremely exciting. And what I like about here is these were sketch marks that I had that gave me an idea of where I wanted to go with this piece. And once I did that in black and that in white, I thought, leave them alone, leave the sketch marks alone. They turned out so good, and they're just part of the piece. This one is Neo. And if you remember in The Matrix, Neo was told to follow the white rabbit. So was Alice in Wonderland. And rabbits appear in many stories and folklores, and there are many stories about them. And so follow the white rabbit, not only for Alice, but for Christine. And then this rabbit here is Peter. And he was on the table the same time the little rabbits are on the table. And I just wanted to be able to see if I had the guts to paint a huge rabbit on a big piece of paper. And I did, and I was delighted with what happened to him. He was just going to be a white rabbit, but I liked the contrast between the black and the white and what's going on, and my very gestural marks that are here. They became very exciting for me, and I put some crayon in here, and here's the cabbage patch that maybe Peter is going to eat the cabbage out of the cabbage patch. The reason I chose the rabbit this year is because I wanted 2021 to feel differently than 2020. While I had my flowers to make me happy, I wanted to look forward to 2021 as a year of rebirth and renewal and good luck. And rabbits represent all that. If you look at or look up online, rabbit, and what are the symbols behind the rabbits, there's just a plethora of folklore going with the rabbit. And so I knew I had chosen the right image to paint, and I've been playing around with the rabbits ever since. So thank you for visiting this virtual tour of this exhibition at the CVA. It's going on through the first part of May, and there'll be a reception at the end of April. So hopefully I'll be able to see some of you there in person.